Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go over the original script for Reva from the original writer for the Kenobi show, which was actually going to be a trilogy of movies, 3 movies back to back, which would have been maybe better. But anyways, let's go ahead and see what the story was for Reva. We went over it briefly on Nerd Theory yesterday, but I want to make a solo video for it, and we can go into depth a little bit. Okay, so Obi-Wan Kenobi killed off Reva in original script. Reva's story in Obi-Wan Kenobi was left open-ended, but this wasn't always the case. Spoiler-filled plot details rumored prior to the show's finale that Reva's fate was changed in order to accommodate a season 2. Now, one of the project's writers has revealed just what Lucasfilm had initially planned. In an exclusive interview with the Direct's Nathan Johnson, Obi-Wan Kenobi writer Stuart Beattie discussed the original plans for Reva's character arc in the draft for his Obi-Wan Kenobi film. When asked if Reva was in the early drafts of the movie script, Beattie said, "She was my creation. I created Reva all the way through." He continued by discussing Reva's view on the Jedi as villains and how the character originally had no knowledge of Anakin being Darth Vader, which honestly would have been great, because if you've seen any of my other videos or you know the lore behind that situation, nobody knows that Darth Vader is Anakin, because if they do, most likely they're no longer breathing, because if Vader found out, you'd be dead. So he says, yeah, except the only little difference in mine was she didn't know Darth Vader was Anakin. Because I was like, how did she know that? All she saw was Anakin as Anakin because he hadn't changed in the suit yet, right? So Anakin killed her friends, put the scar on her, almost killed her, left her for dead, basically. So this does confirm that Anakin did in fact stab Reva during the Order 66 scene, and this is confirmed here in the original draft, where the original writer is saying where he had indeed left a scar on Reva. So perhaps instead of impaling her, he would have slashed her across the face, or who knows what. So in her mind, the Jedi Council were the biggest villains in the galaxy. She believed the lies that they were plotting a coup to take over and get power and all that, but they were stopped by the clones. So she believed that's why she's hunting Jedi, because she believed the Jedi are the worst, basically. Beattie went on to talk about Reva's original fate, with the story ending with her dying at the hands of Vader in order to save Obi-Wan. Because I figured, how would she know that this thing in a mechanical suit that everyone calls Darth Vader is the guy who killed her, or tried to kill her? So it was Obi-Wan kind of letting her in on that secret and that revelation that makes her kind of go, oh my god, I've been wrong this whole time. And so she goes and basically saved Kenobi by sacrificing herself, telling Vader, I killed Kenobi, and then Vader killed her, with her knowing that Vader would kill her. So that kind of completed her arc. So just a little bit different that she was, yeah, absolutely, the Inquisitor hunting Kenobi all the way through and driven by her own personal demons. So I feel like in the original she was haunted by her own personal demons, but in this case she was just sort of faking things so that she could get higher in the ranks and essentially slay Vader. And she did hate Kenobi. I don't think that was fake on her behalf, but I don't think she was as invested in it as she was in defeating Vader, as defeating Anakin. I think she just didn't like Kenobi because he failed Anakin and essentially caused him to turn to the dark side, which ended up in Order 66 and everything that ensued afterwards because of his failure to keep his young Padawan in check, which I think Qui-Gon Jinn would have. Beattie also mentioned that while he thought the third sister had a vital role to play in the story, he felt she had to die. Yeah, killed by Vader at the end of it. Yeah, I wanted this story. I wanted her story to end. I wanted Reva to play her part in the Kenobi-Vader story, which was essentially at the end. She was the one that allowed Vader, basically told Vader to stop hunting Kenobi. You know, she ended the obsession Vader had with Kenobi. She claimed it was over. It's done. So that was her role to play. See, this would have made a lot more sense, because then what's stopping Vader now from hunting Kenobi even more? And we know that he's not stopping hunting Kenobi. I mean, we had Palpatine sort of tell him, like, oh, I feel like your feelings for your old master are making you weak, which kind of would deter Vader, but we know in the comics and the books, it doesn't at all. It just makes Vader kind of double down, but in the shadows almost. And Vader does a lot of sly stuff behind his master's back, so it's not going to stop him. But I think this would have been great, because it would have actually stopped him, because she would have told him that she killed Obi-Wan, and nobody kills Obi-Wan other than Vader. And she'd done so many terrible things, I felt she had to die. You can only redeem so much. So that part, yeah, it's true, but I mean, Vader did so much bad stuff, but in the end he died. I guess, that's sort of justice there. The writer also confirmed that the original plans for Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't include the other Inquisitors, just Reva. Oh, how interesting. So no other plans to include any other Inquisitors. I knew I wanted Darth Vader, obviously, as the big overall villain in this story, and I see him as an antagonist who is going to be more one-on-one with Obi-Wan throughout the show. So Reva really was the result of that. I knew I need that character. I feel like that would have held a lot more weight, as it would have focused more on Vader, which is what Mr. Beatty's plans were originally, and I feel like, whatever happened was altered. Beatty continued by describing how exploring the fallout of Order 66 helped to inform Reva's character and take her to a place of understanding. And of course, there are so many great characters from the Purge, the Great Purge of the Temple and everything. It was just like, okay, let's see what she was doing at the Purge. What if she saw everything that went down? What if Anakin Vader killed her, left her for dead, and sent her on this path? So all that kind of stuff just made sense and allowed me to create a very confused, conflicted, blinded character filled with hate and rage, all the stuff that makes people want to be Sith and Sith acolytes, and take her to a place of understanding truth, understanding who Obi-Wan is, who Vader really is, and what her path is in the galaxy. I feel like that would have carried more weight if she believed that the Jedi were really the ones that were the cause of her friend's death and her turmoil, and then eventually coming to the realization that, no, I am your father. It's like, no, I am your killer. It's like, that would have been a big twist in the show for Reva, and I think it would have helped her to understand that, well, maybe now it's time to change back to the light, and that she's been fighting for the wrong side this whole time, and that Obi-Wan could tell her. I think that would be pretty interesting. The Obi-Wan Kenobi writer also touched on the struggle of bringing stakes to a prequel project involving Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, and how Reva could allow for McGregor's character to have someone to defeat or someone to save. We were always faced with the fact that Obi-Wan could never kill Darth Vader, so he needed to defeat someone, and so Reva was my attempt to give him someone to defeat or someone to save, because he's not going to save Darth. The Darth Vader storyline is going to end in a downer, so I wanted to save someone, and that's why I created Reva. Some fans have drawn the comparison between the third sister with one of her fellow Inquisitor's second sister from Jedi Fallen Order, who had a similar backstory and arc to Reva. When asked about Reva's potential connection to Trilla Sunduri, Beatty revealed that the third sister was created before the video game was even released. Oh, interesting. So I hadn't played Fallen Order. I wrote this initially in 2017, so that was before I played Fallen Order. I then played Fallen Order and was like, oh wow, this is Reva. No, look, it's just a coincidence. I wanted to create a new character because I didn't want to be bound by any canon with any of the others that have already been discussed, and I wanted freedom to take her where I wanted to take her. So that's why I created her for this story, and that's the other thing too. We're already using so many characters in established canon with Obi, Darth, Owen, Beru, so I was looking to create someone new. I even had Cody in mind, so I was looking to create something new. So man, this definitely to me would have sounded much better, and you don't have to save everyone to have like a spin-off story in the next show or the next season or whatever it may be with Star Wars. I feel like killing off Reva, would have really, I think, made her character a little more interesting, kind of like how we're getting Andor now. I mean, he died at the end of Rogue One, but it makes sense, we don't have to have them living all the time. And I feel like now she's probably just going to continue to live on and will go beyond, I suppose, Return of the Jedi, and who knows from there. Because it didn't really make sense, in my opinion, that she was essentially murdering and maiming innocent people to avenge her innocent friends who were murdered and maimed. It's kind of like, how does this make sense? How is this helping anything? I understand she was angry. I understand she was very torn with what Vader had done, and she wanted revenge, but I think if she had thought that perhaps the Jedi were the ones behind the whole thing, like what Palpatine had sort of masked over the whole galaxy and made them believe. And that's one reason why the public really didn't see the Jedi as such great beings anymore, because of how Palpatine portrayed them to be, that he essentially, as we saw in Revenge of the Sith, he said that they tried to kill him and that they were engaging in acts of treason. So for me, I feel like this original story of Reva would have played out much better on screen, I think, and for her to start and end in the show and not to carry on. Now, I think they could have gone with a backstory here afterwards, and they could have maybe done a Reva show when she was perhaps younger, leading into becoming a higher rank in the Inquisitor hierarchy ladder. We could have also had the show focus on Vader, as BD was saying, to be the main bad of the show, whereas in what we got, Reva was really focused on, and Vader was looming over, but he wasn't necessarily the focal point of the bad guy until that finale episode, which really focused a lot on him, but it was just cutting back and forth with Reva, and for me it just didn't hit home as well when she was so focused on killing Luke because she found out that he was the son of Anakin Skywalker, and now she's out there with that knowledge, and I don't think anyone should have that knowledge in the galaxy. That goes against what George wrote. It goes against so many things in canon, or I guess previous canon, as well as the fact that it's breaking the second rule, which is that she knows Darth Vader's true identity, and it's like she literally knows the two things that only Yoda, Bail Organa, and Obi-Wan are supposed to know, which is that Darth Vader has kids and Darth Vader is Anakin. And these are two things that should never ever be discussed and nobody ever knows. It's literally the whole reason why they've gone into exile. It's the whole reason why things are the way they are in the galaxy, to keep their mouth shut and to keep everything secret and safe for the benefit of the kids, of the children, of the Skywalker children, so that there may be a new hope one day. I understand she turned a new leaf. I understand she changed, but can Obi-Wan really trust that? Can he trust the galaxy's biggest secret with her? I mean, what if she gets mind probed by the Empire? It's game over. It is absolutely game over. She's not the only one that can read into minds. If she comes into the grasp of Palpatine, he would know exactly where Kenobi is, and he would know the Skywalker children are alive. He would kill Kenobi, and then he would take the children and train them. And essentially, we would never have the end of the Empire because, well, Luke and Leia would be taking Vader's place, and they would be the most powerful beings in the galaxy. So a lot of things can go really wrong with them just having saved Reva. I think BD creating Reva was really a good idea, as it would have definitely catalyzed a lot of plot points for the show for Vader and Obi-Wan. However, I don't think her surviving and Disney changing it, or Lucasfilm changing it at the very end for whatever reason to give her her own show, is really the best idea. I think they could have still killed her, but it would have made it probably more interesting for her to have a sort of a backstory spin-off where everything can take place kind of like what we're getting with Andor, which is a prequel to Rogue One. We could have it from her being a Jedi in the Jedi Temple during the Clone Wars, and then we could take it all the way into Kenobi, or we could have it sometime where she is a Inquisitor during the time of Kenobi or just before, or her leaving the Jedi Temple and hating them, and we can see her journey through that as she enters the ranks of the Empire and sort of devotes herself to being a Sith acolyte. Anyways, it's interesting that BD had this original idea. I think 3 films would have probably ran better. I think it would have made more sense, and they could have released those films on Disney Plus. It doesn't have to be a show. They could have done the exact same thing. Reva knowing that Vader is Anakin Skywalker, Reva knowing that Vader has children and where they are and who they are, and of course, Reva getting stabbed again by Vader, and then all of a sudden teleporting to Tatooine so fast before anyone else. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. And with a show like Kenobi, they can't expect us to just gloss over things like that and be like, well, don't ask questions, this is just how it works. No, things have to be explained a little bit, and they have to be making sense. And I feel like they went against a lot of things that make sense, even in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars mythos. So anyways, what do you guys think about the original idea for Reva? Would you have preferred it, or do you like what we got in the show? Either way, we're going to be seeing her again, and while I think she's an interesting character, I just don't think she should have been focused on as much in Kenobi. I think it took away a lot from Obi-Wan himself and Vader himself. As here, we saw Vader was supposed to be the main villain, and he was supposed to be the focal point with Kenobi, which would have really bolstered their sort of connection and their fight, instead of diverging energy to here and there with different characters. Thanks for watching my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.